Every year, a wide array of one-shots are published, and although there are exceptions, most are chapters of around 50 or so pages made to test out if a concept is well received enough to be serialized. While most fade into obscurity, a few of the best received ones are given a shot, and I'm here to tell you, get ready to hear the name Gokurakugai Sanbandori no Kenaka, or at the very least, you will be hearing of the incredibly talented Yuto Sano who has evolved every single year as both a writer and artist. So I'm not usually the type to hype things up, especially based on a one-shot, but I've never been so sure that one will get adapted sooner or later, and will become a hit series. This might very well be the best one-shot I have ever read. Well, with the exception of Look Back, but that was a completely different kind of thing. So, let me give you a brief summary of it before I go into why I believe that Gokurakugai Sanbandori no Ken is the next big thing. The story takes place in the Gokuraku district, and right away we can see what kind of place it is. Blackmail, extortion, gang violence, trafficking, and so on. Our leads, Tao and Alma, are so-called troubleshooters. They solve people's problems for the right price. We start off with them having just destroyed evidence that a CEO went to a beastman brothel. And this is probably something you weren't expecting. I don't think we've ever had a fantasy criminal underworld manga. But in this district there are beastmen, mermaids, and I'd assume all other kinds of supernatural beings walking around. But I digress. The CEO tries to undercut their pay, but they refuse to back down when it comes to money. And I couldn't praise the dialogue more for how well it flows and how good it is at showcasing these characters' personalities. The calm and experienced mentor/older sibling Tao, and the reckless and youthful Alma that's learning under her. Moving on, when out getting six for Tao, Alma comes across members of the Mugen Group, a powerful organization with control over the district. And when he sees their symbol, he chose violence. But after beating them up, he catches a small girl trying to pickpocket him. Seeing some of himself in her, he offers to bring her to their office to see if he can get Tao to help solve whatever problem she has. And right away we see where Tao stands on this matter. She doesn't work for free. However, they then find out she's a mermaid, something that was set up from the very first scene by the way, and turns out she's going through just what you would expect from this kind of story. After her stepfather accrued debt, he sold her mother off to the Mugen Group, and eventually her sisters were also taken as collateral. And even after being extremely clear that she will only work for money, Tao takes on this request with a sequence that utilizes sequential art to its utmost. I can't stop thinking of just how well this scene was pulled off. And you can probably assume how the rest of the chapter goes. It's a one-shot, so the conflict has to be resolved soon. They get into the Mugen Group's building, beat everyone up, and free her sisters. While I skipped through most of it, that's because I don't want to rob you of the experience of reading this one-shot for yourself. So after this video is done, I highly recommend you go and check it out. But for now, let's go into some of the reasons why I believe that this could be something very special. First thing that comes to mind is just how this story respects its audience intelligence. There is very little exposition done through light novels worth of text, and most things aren't flat out told to you. This is usually one of my biggest gripes with the medium itself, and damn is it always great to find something that manages to convey so much without having to go out of its way to point it out. Another reason why I think it could be a massive hit is not only how amazing it looks, which if you are still watching by now you are probably aware. Just one look at Yuto Sano's art and you can see how technically sound he is, but even more so how clear the paneling is. You will never find yourself second guessing where to read next. And also, let's not forget to look at the sense of style it has. The combination of traditional Chinese clothing with modern streetwear gives off a unique look to the characters that you won't find almost anywhere else in manga. And by now we should all know how much this can contribute to a series' success. Overall, as an artist, Yuto Sano already has the whole package. But most of that was something you could see from the very first page, and I was much more impressed by what they accomplished as an author. The characters are very identifiable from their dialogue. Their distinct voices and personalities come across very clearly, and just in general, the attention to these small details is some of the best that I've seen recently. Almost everything in this chapter is tied together nicely. There were so many things set up early on that became relevant as the chapter came to a close. Details like the brief mentioning of mermaids early on, or how they tied together Alma's childhood, shown in the first 2 pages, to his encounter with the mermaid girl, as they were both kids with abusive parents who were desperate to get money. Or you can look at when Alma took a gun from the Tiger Beastman and then Tao takes it from him, and it's played off as a gag, but it ends up being relevant for the conclusion of the chapter. Or best of all, how in this sequence we see that she has the symbol of the Mugen Group tattooed on her shoulder, and then she does a cover-up tattoo. This is probably the best way to show how she was a member and then turned away from the organization, and it gives us the meaning behind the tattoo, which is rare in manga. And best of all, none of these are explained through paragraphs upon paragraphs of exposition. The author respects your intelligence as a reader to put 2 and 2 together. And there are just so many more of these details that are neatly tied together, and all this goes into the main reason why I not only think this is great as a one-shot, but has even greater potential for long-form storytelling. This formula can easily lend itself to a long-running serialization. As they solve people's problems for money, each arc can focus on a different case, creating a very episodic structure that can help give us quick setups and payoffs, while building towards the bigger confrontations related to their backstories and the Mugen group. Also talking about backstories, we got shown just the right amount, enough to empathize with the characters, but not so much that it kills the mystery. By carefully balancing short and long-term payoff, they could reach the point where each chapter is both fulfilling on its own, yet still makes you want to read the next one. And that is one of, if not the most essential thing you need to build a long, successful serialization, especially now that manga just get axed left and right very early on. But I have just one concern. If this were to be turned into a serialized manga, can they keep the setting, characters, and their dynamics interesting in the long run? You see, one chapter is nowhere near enough to determine that. Do I think this was about as good an introduction to this story and these characters as we could have had? Definitely. But where does it go from here? As interesting as a concept can be, how it's developed and built upon is the foundation for a great story. And as the author has yet to write a long-term serialization, I have no way of assuming how they would handle it. But one thing is for sure, I want to know. I want to see Yuto Sano get an opportunity to showcase their talents. I have no doubt in my mind we will be hearing that name very soon among the prolific shonen authors. So, to sum it all up, I think Gokurakugai Sanbandori no Ken is not only a great one-shot, but could very well be the next big series. But, even if you never hear of it again, I do know for sure you will be hearing of Yuto Sano. So if you've reached the end of this video, comment Gokuraku Drip so I know who the real ones are. Thanks for watching, and without further ado, I'm Ayvhel, signing out.